Hey there, Mrs. Williams here, and this is problem 4.5.29. It says a new tire has a tread depth of 5/8 inches. After driving 1 year, the tire had 3/32 of an inch of tread remaining. What percent of the tread was worn? So the answer is going to be the percentage of tread worn is blank. And it is the 85% that you see there. So how do we figure that out? Well, I think this problem is a little tricky because they're giving you the amount that's remaining and you want to figure out what's worn. So just kind of keep in mind what you're looking for. So we started with 5/8 of an inch right here. And we want to think of that in 30 seconds just because they give us the amount of the tire that's remaining, and that's also in 30 seconds. So when we're looking at comparing fractions or working with fractions by adding or subtracting, it's easiest if we get a common denominator. And so 5/8 would convert to 20 30 seconds by multiplying by 4 on the numerator and the denominator. So we started out with 20 30 seconds of an inch. This is what is remaining. So how much got worn down? How much of it wore off throughout that year? We can find that by subtracting. So if we subtract 20 minus 32, or excuse me, 20 minus 3, that's 17 32 inches that wore down. That's how much wore off over the course of this year. Okay, so this part disappeared. We want to know not the fraction of that, but the percentage of the tread worn. So we want to take the part that we're interested in, the part that is worn, 17 32, and we put that over the whole. So this is the part that we're looking at, the part that wore down, over the whole. And you could put 5/8 under here. I'm just going to keep the common denominator version, the 30 seconds, that's the same as 5/8. And I want to know that's equal to what percent over 100. So here I can cross multiply to solve this problem. And I know you're thinking, we have fractions within fractions. This looks crazy. What are you doing? It's not quite as bad as it looks. Hang with me and I'll show you. And what I'm going to use here instead of percent is just an X so that my problem is a little bit cleaner than writing percent in there, but you could do that. Okay, so here's what I have after cross multiplying. Now I know I need to get X by itself because X represents my percent worn, so I'm going to divide by this fraction, and I know this looks ugly, but it works just like, a whole number would work. Just keep in mind your rules, follow your rules. You have to know those really well, and then you'll be okay. And this entire thing cancels just like if this were, 2 divided by 2. So now what is going to happen when we are multiplying and dividing fractions? Remember your rules. So in the top, when we multiply, we can think of this as multiplying straight across. So I can add a 1 underneath the 100, if that helps. I know a lot of times that will help to make any whole numbers into fractions. You can always do that by adding a 1. Now, we want to divide by this fraction because that's what this big symbol means. It means fraction, or really you can think of it as dividing. So remember the rule, when you want to divide and there's a fraction that you're dividing by, you want to flip that fraction over and multiply. So we actually end up multiplying by 32 over 20, and that's what X is going to be. Now the nice thing here is that look what happens to our 32s. We have a 32 in the numerator and denominator, and those cancel. So now, to find our X value, what we can do is multiply 100 times 17 and then divide that by 20 because in the denominator we have a 1 and a 20. So if we go ahead and do that, we get 85. And since that is what our X value represents our percent, that tells us that 85% of the tire wore off.